All righty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody had a lovely weekend. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, so we're going to kick it off here with QQ SPY, go over the indices, go over the Magnificent 7 stocks, and then I have some ideas for you into next week. All right, guys, so first things first, we have a very clear line in the sand here on both SPY and QQQ, and that is going to be Friday's low, okay? Both of them bottomed out right off of the 50 MA, all right, the 50 daily moving average there. We came down, we found buyers in the golden pocket right on the 50, okay, and that gives us a really nice spot to go off of here. If we take out Friday's low, guys, we're probably going to take out this low, probably coming all the way back down. We'll go over the levels here on SPY. Take out Friday's low at 661.21. We're probably coming down to 652.84. Would not be a good look. The next stop would be the weekly 21 EMA, which over here at 645 to 650 ish. Wouldn't be the best look over there, right? But I'm just going to remind everyone, when we were before this week over here started, the week where we were just gapping into new highs 3 days in a row, I was saying, hey, if you start the week off with move to the upside, expect the sell by the end of the week. I was looking for a rug pull by the end of the week. I think it's pretty safe to say we did start selling, and then the next week we were also looking for a continued move down that gets bought either by the end of last week or the start of this week. Well, we start again bought at the end of last week. Okay, we fell a little bit further than I was expecting here, but we had two spots we were looking at. Okay, we were looking at the 21 EMA, the daily 21 EMA on both SPY and QQQ. And if we did not hold there, we were going to be watching the golden pocket, which on SPY I was saying, which it was around 667.29, your support over here. Okay, that held. Okay, you opened right above there. You did wick down to the 50 DMA, down to the 0.786, around 661. But yeah, by end of the day, you had a full reversal there, and then you did start pushing up in the after hours. Now, futures are open now. I was waiting to make the weekly update, and just in case we got some big gap up or gap down here. Anything could happen over the weekend. They could open the government, whatever is going to go on. Not really sure when that's going to be opening, but regardless, guys, this is what we got here on the charts. We're going to go over it, okay? I'm personally thinking we at least see a move into 673.95 this week, and we're going to see if we get rejection there. I think we probably will see 677.38 to 680.86, and if sellers are going to step in, I think it's probably going to be in between those levels right there. If we get above 680.86, we're going to be looking for a move up to 684. All right, you get above 684.786 fib, we're talking 685.94, and then you're back on your way to all-time highs, 689.70. I was looking for this to be bought up. I'm looking for $700. I think we're going to get it. I think we're probably going to see this dip get bought. Okay, I understand you fell a little bit more here, but at the end of the day, we had two spots. You're either going to hold the 21 EMA, or you're going to lose the 21. You're going to come down here. Now, that being said, on Friday, you actually had the cloud over here, the daily cloud, the EMA cloud I use. It flipped red. I just want to draw your attention to this. Since the April low, once that cloud flipped back to green, it has not flipped red ever since. Okay, so if it does, I was thinking it might be the start of a larger sell there. I said, to the Discord there, if they're going to save it, it's likely going to save it today because the cloud was red. It was, price was all the way down here. They full on reversed it by end of day. So I do think we get a little bit continuation this week. Okay, expect dips to be bought by default. Okay, if we wick down here into the 50 MA again, which around 666. Okay, 666, 667. Expect that to be bought till proven otherwise. And if you want a long on that dip down there, okay, just risk Friday's low, which is 661.21. You take that out. No bueno. Okay, that cloud is going to flip red, and we probably do have a larger sell in our hands, and there's nothing you could do about it. Nothing I could do about it. It's just that's what the market wants to do. All right, you go with the flow. But by default, I am looking for a move back up. I'm going to point out on the Mag 7 stocks, it makes sense. It is looking like things want to they want to continue bouncing back. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just sum things up over here on SPY, where I'm expecting a move into 677.38 to 680.86 to start the week. And, that would be where sellers would step in my personal opinion. But at the same time, every single other dip we've had since the April low, if you got underneath the 21 EMA, once you reclaimed it, okay, which was within like a session here every single time, one, you know, over here, one. Once you reclaimed it, it started to move back to highs. So yeah, if you get a daily close above 673.95, I have to assume, you know, odds are just favoring and we're going to push right back up the highs. But again, I was looking for that before the sell started. I was looking for the sell. Okay, I didn't know if it was going to find buyers here at previous all-time highs, 673.95 at the 21 EMA on the daily time frame, or if you were going to fail that, okay, they held it for 2 days there, or if they're going to fail that, and we're going to come down to the next area, which in my mind was 667 over here on SPY. We're here, okay, that's it. You're here. It's not any more complicated than that, okay? So that's SPY, the S&P 500, coming over here to the NASDAQ. We have the same exact look. We're going to be watching the same exact things, okay? On the upside, we have 613.18, 617.21, 622.04, 626.69, okay? If you do get back above, we're just going to call it 629. You get back above 629, I think you're probably just pushing up to all-time highs, but I'd say just watch SPY. It's a cleaner chart right now. And then on the downside for QQ, we have 604.52, and then Friday's low at 598.67. Same thing. Okay, same game plan there. If you want to long the dip off of, let's say, 604.52, you can risk Friday's low, okay, which is at 598.67. If you break 598.67, I think we're probably going to take out this low over here, and we're going to revisit 583.32, okay? So underneath 598.67, Friday's low, we're talking 595.50, 589.05, and then 583.32. The weekly time frame, you can see that aligns right with the weekly 21 EMA. So, you know, it's really how it works, guys. You go on the daily over here. You got the 9 EMA, you lose that. You're looking at the 21 EMA. Okay, you see how you're finding your buyers off the 9 this whole time here. Okay, and then you fail it. You look at the 21. So you look at underneath the 9, you look at the 21 EMA, you fail there. Okay, or by default, you know, what I watch is the weekly 9 EMA. If you fail there, you're talking the weekly 21 EMA, which in this case would just be a perfect retest of previous all-time highs. And I have to assume buyers would be stepping in around there. But again, daily cloud has not flipped red this whole entire run here, both SPY and QQQ. If that happens, that is a change of character. And, you know, judge me all you want for an indicator. But, you know, it makes it real easy. It's just, it's showing you that a condition here has happened every single time. Okay. Or it hasn't happened every single time, every dip there. If it changes, that's something to take note of. Okay. We might not be making it back up to highs right away. All right. So just something to think about. Okay. But yeah, we'll see about things, guys. We will see. But yeah. Okay. That's your downside. 604.52, 598.67. 595.50, 589.05, 583.32. On the upside, you have 613.18, 617.21, 622.04, 626.69, 629. Okay, which is right around that 0.786. You have a gap right above, but if you take this out, I think you're just pushing back up the high, 637.01. The key spot to watch on QQ here is going to be 617.21. You get a daily close above 617.21, I think you probably are going to start pushing back up the highs, but next stop above there, I think you're at least getting into the golden pocket, which is that next spot to find sellers in. But again, if you get the daily close back above the 21 EMA, every other time on this run, you just started trekking up the highs. So same on SPY and QQQ. That's what we're looking at the week, guys. Okay. But again, we were calling for this pullback this week. We're saying this is the likely scenario to go, you know, down again, 21 EMA or down here at these 0.618 fibs. Okay, which in this case was 7. I was saying watch for 604.52 to 607.50. Watch for buyers stepping over there. I understand we wicked underneath it, but he just came down to the 50 DMA, and buyers stepped in hard. Okay, so those are SPY and QQQ, guys. We're coming over to IWM. It doesn't look all that good. I would honestly just avoid small caps for the time being. Does not look all that good. Just playing the main stocks right now. I'm going to point out the Magnificent 7 stocks and which ones that I am going to be focusing on / already am. And I'm going to point out we got some real appealing things right now. Okay. DIA came down, also wicked right off of the 50 DMA there. Not a bad look. Okay. But yeah, the indices aren't looking all that bad. VIX ended up getting crushed. You have a large upper wick there on the daily time frame. Most of the time we get those. okay, you do end up going lower. It doesn't mean you don't get bought. Okay, we'll see if we get bought. But if that ends up, if you see VIX back under, we're just gonna, I mean, honestly, if you lose the 21 EMA, you're probably gonna have a larger sell, and that's gonna be 1764, which was Thursday's low. But really, yeah, 1731, you take that out, I think we're gonna have a fall on VIX crush, and that's when this market just pushed back to all-time highs. So that's something you could have an alert on, 1731 over here on VIX. And then if you do get above 2190, probably aligns with SPY QQ taking out Friday's lows, and then you get a larger sell, and VIX gets a larger pump here. All right, so we'll see what we get. But I'd say odds are favoring the upside. I was looking for the dip before it happened. We're now getting buyers in one of those two spots, those key spots. Okay, we only had two spots. If you don't hold them, you don't hold them. You get a larger sell down to weekly 21 EMAs. You held them. Okay, you can't argue with the market. It's going to show us what you want to do, or what it wants to do, and we go with the flow. All right, so the MAGS ETF, guys, also wicked off of the daily 50 moving average over here on the daily time frame. Doesn't look as pretty as SPY QQ candles, but same picture. Okay, you get back above the 21 EMA, it's probably starting to move back to highs. You get above 66.95 on MAGS. This is the MAGS ETF over here, MAGS. Get above there, you're probably going to start pushing back up to highs. But let's just walk over the walk through these actual Magnificent 7 stocks, the things that make up this ETF here. Microsoft. Okay, we got a few scenarios for this guy. I'm just going to start off with the monthly. Doesn't look so hot. It looks like you want to take out 492.37 on the weekly. Again, doesn't look so hot. Daily, it looks like you're probably going to get a bounce if the rest of the market is going to begin this bounce, but I'm expecting rejection in the zone here, 505.04 to 509.63. Doesn't mean you can't get above there, but really until the cloud flips back to green, I'm just going to expect the bounce here to be sold. And that's that. Now, if you do get above 519.30, then you probably start pushing back up to 530. But, I'd say there's absolutely no reason to be touching this thing. And if it does give you the chance to buy over here at 468.35, that is where I think it's worth to start paying attention there. But Microsoft is not appealing. Okay, that's Microsoft. NVIDIA, you found buyers off of that 50 DMA there on Friday, also off of 184.48, previous all-time high. Okay, this is a level you keep flipping back and forth in between support and resistance. Resistance, okay, and then you got above it. All right, and this NVIDIA NVDA, I know some people don't watch the actual videos, they're just listening to them. So I will try and help you guys out. Not always going to be perfect, but I will try and help you guys out. Point out what tickers we're talking about, but can definitely just watch the video. I would just advise that. That is how you're going to get the benefit out of these videos. If you're just listening, you're missing most of the content. I can't really say nothing about it. But over here, guys, NVDA, NVIDIA, you can get back above 195.62. You probably start pushing back up. Okay, above there you have 2141 and 212.19. I would say leave this one alone. Not really worth it. But I do think you are probably going to start this week off with a bang here. Now, if you sell this bounce, okay, we're going to next stop. We're going to watch 37 on the daily RSI here. Okay, so you're going to set an alert here, 37 on the daily RSI. That is where, if you just look back for years now, that is where buyers continuously step in. You get a 10% move within days. Okay, within 1 to 2 weeks, you're looking for a 10% move. You could go back years. It is the case for quite some time there. Okay, quite some time, 2 years. Actually, 3 years. Okay, so if we see that condition, we fail this, that's the next play there on the video. That's what I'm going to be paying attention to. Okay, and then downside 148.48, and then you have Friday's low. If you take that out, 176.76, and you're probably coming back down to 164.07 into earnings. All right, but earnings are on the 19th in just about 2 weeks before the monthly OPEX on Wednesday. All right, now we get into the ones that I like. Okay, Amazon, guys, this is exactly what we were talking about. In the last weekly update there, I was saying we're extended from the 5 EMA. I know we ended up going decently higher here, another 8 points, but you pulled back to that exact same spot that we're pointing out, trying to get involved at ahead of time. All right, again, we were looking for the dip ahead of time. We thought it made sense. Things were extended, and yeah, we got it. We got a bunch of mean reversions across the board. SPY QQ had big pullbacks there. They pulled back in the golden pockets. That's discount territory along your trend, guys. That's all the golden pocket is. It is your discount. 0.618 Fibonacci retracement to the 0.7886 Fibonacci retracement. Okay. But yeah, you printed a hammer candlestick right off of 238.85 to 242.52, the zone we got marked out here. It's actually exactly what I was paying attention to before we started the week last week, guys. So, you know, picture perfect. All right. So I started getting involved there on Friday, and there are two others that I really like on this list, and we'll go over them right after this. But yeah, Amazon, guys, I'm looking for you to either get a dead cat bounce to start off the week here before going a little bit lower, and then I'm looking for a bottom between 230 and 235. That would be around the 90 MA over here on the weekly time frame. All right, and then I'm looking for, you know, 1 to 2 weeks you to push back up the highs. All right, and then the other scenario here is you're just going to get through 250.50 and you're going to push back up the highs. I'm not sure which one it's going to be, okay? But, you know, you could see like over here, all right, back in November 2024, you did end up pulling back to the weekly 90 MA. It took just about 2 weeks after making new all-time highs over here, and then you pushed up, okay, with force there. 2 weeks, you had a big push. All right, but you can see on the monthly time frame, guys, you've been basing out for quite some time over the previous all-time high there. Okay, that's like a year and a half, a little over there. And now you're starting to push up from that. All right, monthly, weekly, daily. It suggests you're going higher. Okay, go with the flow. Amazon, about to march higher, likely. GOOG, G-O-O-G, Google. All right, it's just basing out, guys, on the weekly. Okay, we can see it is extended, so I'm not telling anybody to really touch this thing. I'm going to be honest. I think most probable scenarios, this thing is going to just continue going sideways. It might push, though. It might push to start the week. You found buyers off the 90 MA on Friday there, above 286.29. You're looking at 291.93 above their $300. Now, I'm thinking this thing probably just gets a dead cat bounce and then comes into the daily 21 EMA and then goes higher. And I think that might be a 2-week process right there. I wouldn't personally be playing that one, but I do like how it's setting up here. You know, it's tight in a flag. You don't have a bearish divergence on the daily RSI yet. I have to assume, you know, even if you get this rejection here, okay, and you get this sell, maybe you fill the 262.51 gap. Not really sure. But yeah, I have to assume you're going to push new highs, and you don't have a bearish divergence going on right now. You typically do have one of those at, you know, actual swing highs. We're not at swing highs, is what I'm getting at. Okay, most of these, like, look at that, you have the bearish divergence right there. You have the bearish divergence building out this whole time here. Okay, over here you had the dip. You know, I know it looks like a big dip, but you didn't have a bearish divergence going on. You're expecting buyers. Okay, so if we see this, I'm expecting buyers. I will take advantage of it. Not sure how deep that dip goes. We might even, you know, come all the way into 256.70, but you're expecting buyers there. Okay, that's what it's setting you up for. All right, Tesla over here, guys. The last 2 times along this run, you got underneath the 21 EMA. You found buyers and got back above it within 1 to 2 sessions. If you're not back above it by Monday's close, okay, back above 21 EMA, which is currently at 443. I would say proceed with caution here. I do think it's gonna go on a sick run over here to all-time highs, but I'm definitely going to say daily cloud flipping on every single run. You could really look back and find usually just marks your top. Like that's the beginning of the end there. Okay, it doesn't mean you don't get a little dead cat bounce going after you sell a little bit, but yeah, it's the beginning of the end. You're not popping back up the highs anytime soon. You know, so you might spend a lot of time more consolidating. Just saying, be open to it. Be open-minded about these things, okay? If you can get right back above it, okay, you get that daily close above 443, the daily cloud is not going to flip red, and it's going to stay green. And at that point, you just watch 470.75. If you test it again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 times we've tested the upper end of this range. You're probably going to break it, but, you know, at the end of the day, I just wouldn't be trading this thing. I don't think it's worth it, okay? I like Amazon, and now my favorite, Meta. Discount. So we got the daily bullish divergence. I guess we'll start off with the daily time frame right here. You got the bullish divergence wicked right off of the 0.618 fib, guys. If we weren't going to hold here, this was that next stop we're going to be watching. We actually also did have that level marked out. You started to find buyers there for 2 sessions. You lost it. You came down to the next spot. It was 601.70 there. That's your 0.618 from the low here, from your April bottom. Now, I just want to come back, pull back to the monthly time frame. I know it looks like a hot mess, okay? But, you know, all of these times, okay, I had, you know, more red lines marked out here. These were your bottoms, okay? These were your bottoms. And you could see all of these are your golden pocket retracements. Golden pocket on this name is very common. Very common. you now come down to the daily time frame. And I'm going to point out, not only are all those golden pocket tests, you know, they did, you know, find buyers in the golden pocket, but what can we align them with? You're in the same spot on a lot of them, or you have the bullish divergence, you know, right there on the daily RSI. You're in the same exact spot where you're bottoming a lot of the time. If, like, this is the whole inception of this ticker right here, Meta. Okay, so I'm telling you, along your bullish trend, which you're definitely on the monthly time, you're in a bull trend. Okay, you're in a bull trend. There's no denying it. Once you start putting in the divergences over here in your golden pockets, you typically, I know there's a lot of lines, but, you know, I'm just pointing out, you know, you print your bullish divergences in here. Okay, that is, and you're probably going to start getting your buyers. Okay, you got a little base, and you start breaking up. You got your, you know, bullish divergence printing over here. You know, I'm just pointing out, we probably have bottom on Meta, and if we have not bottomed on Meta, I am just going to look for you to make a marginal new low, and then for you to hold 550. I don't want to see 550 break. But chances are, guys, we probably do have a bottom here on Meta. Okay, I am now going to say this is discount territory. I'm now going to say this is the cheapest of the Mag 7 stocks. I like Meta and METU, MEDU. So that is META and METU. Why? Because Meta back to the highs is about 30% from current price. METU over here will be about a 60% move because it's a 2x leverage ETF there. And this thing has, from current price here, just about 30%, 28% if you push back up the highs. So, you know, Meta, guys, top watch for the week. I already started getting involved. We started seeing a lot of calls come in, a lot of bullish flow come in the other day here, right, when we were around, you know, 630 to 640. Actually, it was like over here, 620 to 625. We started seeing that. So I hopped on that. And I'm just saying, I think, you know, either way, we do at least have this dead cat bounce in 660 to 690. I'm not sure if you get above there. Probably do get above there in my opinion, but expect rejection until proven otherwise. You know, that's just how charts work. Okay. You know, if the cloud's red there, by default, you know, I'm just expecting bounces to be sold. Doesn't matter. Okay. It's any ticker. That's just how I work. All right. But that's what we got over here on Meta. Above 642.23, you have 662.67 and then 691.20. Expect rejection in between 660 and 690. You get above 691.20. Cloud starts flipping red, all right, you're probably coming up here back up to, you know, 730-ish. But in that case, you likely are making a fall on reversal, and over the coming weeks / 1 to 2 months, you're probably going to make your way back up to all-time highs, okay? So that was Meta, and then the last one is going to be Apple over here. You know, Apple, you know, I'm not going to say this looks all too appealing here. You might retest previous all-time highs around 260.10, maybe sweep the 21 EMA, you know, get underneath it. Maybe you just sweep in a wick underneath it. I'm really not sure. But, you know, you might come down to 260.10, base out, you know, for a few sessions there around that area, previous all-time highs, and then get bought up after that to new highs. I'm really not sure. It's not one I'm too interested in playing here. I really do just like Amazon and Meta. Those are the two that I'm getting involved in. Not over here on Apple. Okay, Tesla I think is no bueno. Apple, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I think it's gonna push back up to highs, but I do think it might pull back first, just trick people. Now that being said, if the market's just gonna gap up tomorrow, then yeah, all of these things are probably gonna be pushing. So that's just gonna be that. Yeah, that's how that's going to go. Okay. But that is Apple. On the upside, you have 273.40, 277.32, and then look for 280 plus. Okay. Downside, you have 265.29. Break that 260.10 is your support. Okay. Expect buyers around there. All right, guys. So those are the Magnificent 7 stocks. Now I got a few ideas for you. Okay. And, you know, I'm just going to go over favorite ones, guys. Mag 7 stocks. We're talking Amazon, Meta, and Google. I'm going to be watching for this move back down here, and that's where I would be scooping up. Okay, but you know, really, Amazon and Meta specifically is just I'd say is in value territory. Amazon over here, I'd say it's clear as day. This is a break and retest off previous all-time highs. You know, I think we're going to be going on a run just like we went on over here at GOOG on Amazon. I think it's likely time. It's, you know, it was beaten down for a while, wasn't making all too much sense as other things were running, and now, yeah, this thing just pushed right back up to highs here off of earnings. And yeah, we're just retesting that area that we broke out from. Okay. So that's Amazon. We're going to start off with EOS. Okay, EOSE. Big move up on Friday, guys. Okay, you know, SPY QQ, they had a hammer candlesticks. Okay, they had massive moves down and they closed slightly up there. They formed the hammers. Well, this guy closed up 20%. This guy closed out right underneath where it's about to break out of 1905. Above 1905, guys, we have 2180. And then I'm just going to point out this range over here. You know, we're just going to take it to the top to the bottom here. It's about $6 if you just take most of the price action there where most of it was contained. We're talking about a 5-point move. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for a move 24 to $25 here in the short term on EOS. I think that can honestly come this week. I think this thing is about to start pushing up. This is a 4-week base here. It is just now pushing up. You found buyers 2 weeks in a row off the weekly 9 EMA. You had increasing volume in the week and on Friday, heavy volume. I think this thing is probably about to break out to new highs and push. Okay, so that's EOS. Next one. Now, I was putting on your radar over here. I was telling you guys, expect this dip to be bought. So, you know, hopefully some of you guys scooped it up with me at lower prices there. But, you know, either way, I don't like the weekly candle over here. I think we probably do get a pullback to start off the week. If the market does, you know, gap up there, then that's probably not going to be the case. But, you know, you could see, you know, a lot of these red candlesticks, yes, they can go higher, but you do get that pullback sometime that week. So I'm just expecting that that'll be the case this week. I do think this thing pushed back up the highs. I got 2 scenarios for you on this one. We are looking at, you know, either a pullback into, if you take out 535.52, we're going to watch 526 for that to hold. Okay. And then if you get the pullback to start the week and then you take out last week's high at 542.26, that's when you know it's likely about to push up to all-time highs at 555.81. It's 555.81 above there. Obviously you got 560, but I think this goes 570 plus. Okay. So that is CrowdStrike, one of the best daily, you know, charts we have in the game right now. In my personal opinion, I just don't really like how that weekly candle closed, but I do think, yeah, either this week or next, you make it up to all-time highs. You could look for that dip to be bought this week, okay? That's Crowd. And, you know, while I'm on this, I just want to point out all of these cybersecurity stocks are really setting up here, okay? You got Zscaler here. It doesn't look all that bad. They all have similar weekly and daily charts. Pull back to the 21 EMA, but Crowd definitely stands out the most. PanW retest some previous all-time highs there after breaking out for, you know, this thing has not broken out, you know, really had a meaningful breakout to new highs in, yeah, almost a year there, and it's hitting it with the break and retest right now. So there is also that. And then you have Net over here, Cloudflare. Also looks like this thing is going to start pushing back up, but, you know, by far CrowdStrike is the best looking one. CRWD. Next one is CLSK, guys. I personally picked up shares on this. That's how I'm going to trade it. I'm going to sit on them. Hey, okay, if Eric Trump is going, Donald Trump's son is going to be pumping Bitcoin right now, I think this is probably, it's about time for this thing to, you know, get bought up. Now, I was pointing out this one ahead of time into the 21 EMA, so maybe some of you guys already scooped it up. But yeah, we pushed right into it, guys. Or we sold right into the weekly 21. We got bought right from over there. Now I have a hammer candlestick off the daily 50 moving average over here. All right, on Friday. And if you can get back above 1797, this high over here, excuse me. I've been fasting for so long, guys. It's been 2 weeks. Today was the first day I ate. So yeah, hiccups, they might start coming back a lot more. Well, we'll see. All right, we'll see. But that was my little secret that not many people knew about. Discord knew about it. But yeah, no, I haven't been eating. I just put myself through a water fast to test myself and do that. And yeah, I'm really glad to have food. I am. And yeah, it's cool. Start off with cantaloupe today. All right, guys. But yeah, it doesn't look bad at all over here on CLSK. Okay, I'm looking for buyers to start stepping around here. And yeah, get you back above 1797 and start pushing back up towards these highs. I think you're going to have another, you know, big move up here. This chart is getting ready for a big move up. That's why I say I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm guessing it would be moving with Bitcoin, but yeah, I'm just playing it with shares because I don't really care how long it's going to take here. But I do think there's a solid chance. Once it gets going, we're talking 2-3 weeks back at new highs, having a breakout, we push $30. Okay, if you take it from here, okay. Bada bing, bada boom. 100% gain. Okay. CLSK. KO. All right. Consumer staples were strong last week as the market clearly was not. All right. Market, big red week there. Consumer staples not. You know, I pointed out Walmart as well off of the weekly 21. It's not one I'd be playing, but I will point out, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay. You found buyers off of the weekly 21 in reverse back up. Okay, you had to move back up to whatever that range was at the time, and then over here you had a breakout. Might have a bigger move around the corner, but I'm not really going to put too much emphasis on it. KO over here looks like it can be explosive though. All right, KO guys above 790, 7090. You're watching for 7161 breakout. Above there, you have 7245 can, you know, be tested in the short term. Above there, 7353 and then 7438. That's your all-time highs. You got two false breakouts over here at your last, you know, all-time high test. I am assuming you're not going to get another failed breakout on this one, but we'll see. Maybe you push up and just consolidate up here for a little bit, build something out for, you know, 1 to 2 months. Really not sure, but I do think you get that continued move after, yeah, we cut quite a bit last week as the market was not doing all that much, okay? But yeah, KO, I'm really liking it. I expect dips to be bought over here on this name. Next one is BE. So I was mentioning over here, either I thought it was going to go into end of last week, but if not, into, you know, last week there, I thought it would be going this next week. All right, because over here you can see you consolidated for a week and a half here above the previous high, and then you had this big move up, not off earnings or nothing. There's probably a catalyst to go with it, but I am thinking this thing is probably going to be doing some cool things this week. Okay, this is a tight range here, and at this point it is also a week and a half. You have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 candles here. That is a week and a half, just like over here. Okay, you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, no, actually 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 candles, 8 candles, 8 candles. Let's see if you push up off of Monday. It probably would align with the market going though, but this has been showing strength with or without the market, so definitely one to keep your eye on. Be a break above 144.20 guys. We're going to be looking for 160 to 170. All right, BE. MP, guys, I think you probably have a short-term bottom in, at least a short-term bottom. If not, you know, actually just a swing low bottom before you push back up to highs. We're going to have to see if you can get through these daily moving averages, though. Regardless, I want to point out the significance of where you start bouncing back on the daily RSI. All right, if you look back, this is the last two bottoms that were made. You did it right here off of the spot. Now, that being said, both of those, you got a little push, and then you came down to a minor. Just like straight up a minor new low there, okay? A marginal new low, I should say. And then you put in the bullish divergence, and then you started having a massive move. Same thing over here. You came down here. It was on that day right there. You had a bounce, okay? And then bang, you came down to a marginal new low again, and then you had this massive move that took place over the coming 2 to 3 weeks. I think that can be the place over here on MP. That's you know, Materials Corporations. This looks like it could do some cool things, okay? But yeah, you do have buyers stepping in around the weekly 21 EMA. That is also a good thing. But really the emphasis on what I'm trying to point out here is going to be the daily chart, okay? I really like MP though. I do. And I'm going to be watching it closely. And, you know, let's just look at it this way. This thing from current price back up to the highs, it's almost 100%. If you can scoop it up, it's 70%. If you can scoop it up when it sweeps this low over here, like it's done the previous two, you know, times the daily RSI got down to the exact spot it's in right now, exact spot. If you can manage to just, you know, if that happens, okay, I'm not telling you to buy this thing, but if you see it, keep what I'm saying in mind, please, okay, because you might be able to catch a move like this, and all of a sudden you're up 100%, okay. Something to keep your eye on. MP, APP. You guys know I was on this last week. Yep. Yeah, I like how this thing closed down on Friday. And yeah, I think this thing might get back up to 650 early on the week. Either way, I'm going to look for this thing to break above 649.65 this week, 650, and start this push 670 above there. Okay, $700 psych level, and then I don't think it's going to take too long to get back to all-time highs. I think the move is loading, guys, and it's a lot of time. We're finding, you know, just wicks of buyers off of the weekly 9 EMA here. Yeah, you know, I think you got a situation like over here where, you know, you get a lot of tests of the weekly 9, all right, and then eventually you just get this pop. Now, that was off of earnings. We didn't get an earnings move, but, you know, I don't think they were too justified with selling this thing as, you know, down bad as they did over here. But as we could see, you know, 2 times you found buyers in the same area. Yeah, it's probably going to hold that low, okay? It's being protected over here by buyers, and I have to assume it's going to keep being protected. Now, that being said, okay, we all saw it, you know, it didn't end up rocking off earnings, great earnings there. Yeah, maybe it takes some more time, but I'm still looking for this thing to have a breakout move. Not a top watch by any means, okay, but you know, it is still looking pretty juicy. And if it does start this move, and let's just say it takes out last week's high here, 650, 630, it probably does start, you know, having a sick move back up to all-time highs, okay, over the next 1 to 2 weeks from there. That's APP. RR. Okay, RR is one that, you know, you broke down underneath the moving average over here. Okay, and now you have fully retraced the move. You're into the golden pocket. You're at one of two main levels, 341 to 390. That's what I was watching for buyers step in over here. If you took out 341, I was going to be watching 295 over here, 0.786 from the whole move up. But yeah, I'll just point out, actually, if you come over here, look at that, you know, a little bit better there. We'll leave it there. But yeah, you know, it looks like buyers are starting to step in here, and we should at least begin a dead cat bounce here. You can see the last few times you have tested this spot, that has marked your little bottom. Okay, right there, marked the bottom before a decent sized move. Not saying it's going to be the same, but I think it's probably going to be the same. You found buyers right off the weekly 21, right off the golden pocket, 0.618 fib in your demand zone I had marked out ahead of time over here. I'm assuming they're going to give you a decent bounce into 450 to 469. That's what I'm paying attention to. Then if you can get back above 520, I think they might just start sending this back up to highs. You might get an impulsive move going over here within 1 to 2 weeks. You're at new all-time, not all-time highs, but above 743, and then you can push 850. We'll see. All right, we will see. All right, NBIS. Okay, NBIS over here, guys. You have earnings coming in Tuesday before the bell. I'm thinking they're probably going to be over here. I'm just going to say it ahead of time. They have been doing well off of earnings, the past two of them. I have to assume this one's going to be the same. You did find buyers off of the daily 21 EMA over here, and it obviously is going to just depend on if you gap up off earnings or not. But I think this chart ahead of time, I was saying this chart it was standing out against the rest. It's been trading on its own here. It actually looks very similar to APP's weekly chart right here with what it's doing. Just look at this. It's kind of the same exact thing right there. But yeah, you know, I'm thinking this thing pushed new all-time highs, okay? Above 141, I think this goes 150 plus. 150, 160. And if it's going to do it, it does off earnings. So we'll see. Lemonade, guys. Big move. You finally got the breakout over here. Okay, monthly, weekly, they look great. You're finally breaking out of that consolidation that was just taking place above previous highs over here, right on this previous, you know, breakout level right there. You now pushed up off of good earnings there. I pointed out, you know, we're watching for the pullback here. If you want to buy in on that first pullback, there's that idea, or you wait for it to range out and then take out this high here at 81.90, that week's high. And then if it's going to go like the last big runs it's been on here, that's when it goes up for the next leg, and you catch another 10 to 20% depending where you are in the move. Okay, if it's going to work out, I'm telling you, you know, at this point in a run, if you didn't catch that, okay, you can play with size if you want. I'm not going to tell anybody to do it with, you know, whatever you want to do with your money, you do with what you want with your money, okay? But I think, you know, it is a move over here just to use smaller size and shorter dated options, because if you do catch that move, that's amazing. If it doesn't happen, you don't need to lose a lot of money on it. Okay, if it goes south, there's that. But I'm telling you, if you just want to take it on the breakout, if it's going to be like how it went in the past, that's when, you know, you quickly get a 10 to 20% move, and a 10 to 20% move above here is 90 to 100 bucks. Okay, just about 100 bucks. So I'm thinking, you know, above 81.90, we could see 90 plus. And, you know, weeklies, they're going to be cheap. And if this is actually going to go how it has in the past, then it's going to do it this week. Okay, it's going to start that move. That being said, you could always use the 11/21 expiration too. It's all up to you. But yeah, that's how I'm going to be approaching this guy over here. I'm going to be watching it for the next leg up. And if it's like it how it is in the past, it does it in one day. If it's going to move how I'm thinking, okay, it has a big move that first day, and that's where the premiums really pump, and that's where you can take advantage. Yes, that second day they might continue. All right, but yeah, I would just, if you catch one of these big ass pumps here and you catch a move to 90 bucks, get the fuck out. All right, hey, take your money before the market takes it back. Last one I got for you, BRKB, Berkshire Hathaway, okay? BRKB over here, BRK.B. That's in a trading view. If you're going on Webull, it's going to be BRK-B, okay? The little, whatever the minus sign is, whatever that's called, hyphen, I think, but also I'm not sure. But yeah, Berkshire Hathaway over here, guys. I do think this is probably going to be taking out 507.66 this week. I think it probably gets a pullback to start off the week. That just looks like what happens most of these weeks. So expect a little dip off of the, to start off the week, open the week up. Maybe you go a little bit higher. Okay, it goes something like this. You pull back into the daily 21 EMA, or not the 21, the daily 50 EMA over here. And then you go higher. That's actually just the moving average over here. The cloud, that's what I have, the EMAs. The yellow line right here, that's your 50 moving average. Okay, and then it's just a moving average, not exponential moving average. But yeah, I'm looking for the dip. I'm looking to buy that dip early on in the week if it comes. And yeah, I'm looking for it to then take out the last week's high at 516 and then push 507.66. And above there, I think we got to be open to a larger move. Okay. Really was standing out last week. Monthly chart looks like this thing wants to explode over here in the short term, or at least this month get up to 507.66. Maybe it just sweeps it like it did over here. But even if that's the case, all right, that's 1.4% above there. So what are we going to be looking for over here? All right, 1.4% above. That's going to be, still a move to 515. Okay, so, I'm just saying premiums are really cheap over here on this name. I don't know why. I'm guessing it doesn't move fast most of the time, but when it does move, it moves decently. So, gains can be made over here on Berkshire Hathaway over here, B class. Okay, B class shares or whatever. BRKB. And that's what I have for you guys today. All right. I hope you guys crush it this week. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. There are a lot of names standing out right now. I tried narrowing down the list just to, put some, actual value in here, because at the end of the day, everything was bouncing back on Friday here. These are the names that are standing out to me. These are the ones that I'm going to be focusing on here. All right, this week. CLSK, that's when I just added shares. I'm going to wait for this move to pan out. I like what some of these Bitcoin stocks are doing right now. I like what Coinbase is doing. All right, these are my two scenarios I'm looking for on Coinbase. But CLSK is how I'm going to be playing that. And, I saw Barron Trump, or yeah, I think it was Barron. It wasn't Eric. Barron Trump was saying he was all in Bitcoin. I saw a tweet, and I didn't know if it was fake or not, but 100%. When we were up here, I was looking for this level over here at $15. So I was looking at that, and the weekly 21 EMA was kind of your worst case scenario. That's what I wanted to start scooping up at. You got it, and you could see the higher time frame here. It looks like this thing's going to take out 24.72 if you give it a few months. It looks like maybe even close this month red here, and you push on the next month up to new highs, and you get $30, and that's just about 100% from here. So say it's worth the risk from where you are right here. Okay, trade it how you see fit, whatever you want to do. But I like this out of the Bitcoin stocks over here. Okay. But yeah, guys, we have some good stuff. And Meta, I'm serious. You could just look back in history. Your golden pocket tests, like there's a lot. I know this looks like a mess, but you got this move right here. There's one. You got, this next move right there. There's another golden pocket test. And again, you can go down to the daily and you see a lot of those have the same bullish divergence we got right now. Or you just at the daily RSI is at extremes like we are right now. A lot of them. All right. And that's, just more confluence going on right there. Okay. You had this move from over here up to here, and then bang, you had this big wick down to the 0.620 fib. That was your bottom. All right, so I'm just in this monthly time frame. All right, you're now testing on this whole move up here. Okay, from your 2022 bottom, you've only tested the 21 EMA on the monthly time frame twice. I'm just saying this thing is going to be going higher. Maybe it does end up, basing out, gets that dead cat bounce, like I was saying, into 660, 690, rejects, comes lower. It probably would align with the market rejecting though, if that's going to be the case. But I'm still just going to try and scoop it up down here. I'm going to be taking the profits into here. I'm going to try scooping it up down here. Either way, I'm going to start accumulating shares down here. I already, picked up options on it. But yeah, I'm really liking this. I'm really liking Meta over here. I think it is in value territory at this point. I don't think it's getting back down there. And I think, you either get something like this or you just start going back up. All right. So I think it's worth paying attention to. But either way, long term, I'm serious. From where you are, this is a 30% move back up to highs, 28% from current price. That's good for a Magnificent 7 stock. Okay. If you're willing to sit on it like I am. Yeah, I'm just pointing out the value. Okay, I know a lot of you guys are long-term investors out there. Everyone, kind of should be at the end of the day. Yeah, now I'm just trying to help you guys out. Okay, and then Amazon, I don't. It's not a value territory, of course, but I'm definitely going to say, as far as being a trader goes, the short term, I got two scenarios there. I like December calls over here. That's personally what I'm going with here, and I'm probably going to be adding on some more, you know, on Monday if we're around this price. But again, you know, worst case scenario is you're going to reject right over here, come down here and find a bottom, you know, 230, 235. And then probably that next week, you start pushing back up the highs, that next 1 to 2 weeks after that. So yeah, I like December calls over here. And yeah, the nice payout by the time you get back up the highs. And if you do get that second week down, not too much data there. But I got a starter on. And yeah, we'll see what we get this week, guys. But market's it's queuing up for new highs, in my opinion. I think SPY is going to $700. You know, again, people like to think I'm a perma bull. I call price action very well here on this channel, and if you just take the time to watch these things, yeah, I think you're going to have a really good time in the market and tracking the market. You know, you're going to know where you are. And yeah, I was telling people over here, once we started, we got this day right here. I was telling people to start putting your risk back on. Okay. Well, again, no financial advice. I'm not going to directly say that, but I started putting the risk back on. I told the Discord that is, you know, we're probably not going to be doing that. I personally, you know, almost tripled down on PLTR over there, more than doubled down right before a little pop. Okay. But, you know, even something like PLTR, it's probably going to start bouncing back. I'm not going to call this a pretty chart though. Nobody really should be touching this thing. You got the bearish divergence going on. Don't touch it. Okay. I gave you the names over here that I personally going to be focused on because they're definitely standing out. Okay. But yeah, with that being said, guys, I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their night here, and I hope you guys crush it this week. Okay. I'll be here with my normal updates. And if you want to come trade with me, that link will be down below. I'm live every day. And with that being said, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.